You know what they say, one man's trash is another man's slave, right? Card tricks. Unfortunately, I happen to be a magician, so therefore I'm obligated to show you some card tricks. I'm sure you saw that little introduction with that video that I made for Instagram. It's a nice one, it's a cool trick. And today what I thought is that I teach it to you using, of course, my new deck of cards, the Missing Piece deck, of which you should totally get linked down below. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be a fairly complex trick. You're gonna need to never see a woman naked, and that's fine. Most of you have never seen a woman naked to begin with. So losing out on something you've never seen before, well, that's not really losing out, is it? By the way, those Legos over there and these Legos over here were gifts. I'm 34. I think it's kind of gay to have Legos, but they're all gifts to me because the person that got them for me knows that they're giving me a burden. You're giving me a chore. And I'd rather have a Lego than a box. So, alas, I do build them. I'm not gay though. So the first thing you need for this are contrasting cards, second and third from the top of the deck. In this case, every Missing Piece deck brings a blank card, which happens to be a feature. Let's pretend it wasn't a complete oversight on my end. And that card works well second from the top of the deck, as well as another contrasting card. I mean, anything's going to contrast blank, third from the top of the deck. Now, here's where it gets a little bit hard, because you're going to need to get a pinky break underneath the third card and a ring finger break underneath the second card. The reason for this is because of economy of motion, one of my favorite terms that you could learn about on the PigCake Magic Academy, but alas, that's for a different segment altogether. And here what we have are two alternative breaks. So now we don't have to get two different breaks. We could just have one and continue off with two double lifts, which is what we're gonna need to do. I like to do this fancy one where you're showing the card and then ending it with this Stuart Gordon double lift. However, that's completely unnecessary. You could just very well have turned these cards to a face-up position, supposedly on the deck. Now, do keep in mind that while I'm doing that, I'm preserving both breaks. The way that I do that is with an ultimate trap, which takes place over here. You can see why I warned you extensively that this is an advanced card trick, and for those that never have seen a woman naked. So, I suggest you learn these techniques from the PigCake Magic Academy. You could find it right there. I know you're annoyed. You're annoyed because I stopped the tutorial in order to advertise. But if I don't advertise, I don't have a house. So, alas, I have to point you in the direction of the PigCake Magic Academy. But look at what you get. Look at that running list of tricks. And by the way, I haven't updated that list in about a year and a half. So there's over 1,500 tutorials that you get access to the moment you sign up. And I'm always uploading, baby. So it's not just that. It's always being updated. It's always being uploaded. So make sure to check it out. So that allows me to maintain both breaks and still carry off a double lift. So I've shown this blank card. I'm going to turn it face down and I'm going to take it and insert it somewhere in the middle of the pack. Now, all the while, because of that break I've kept, now I automatically have another double lift. Now, the participants have just seen me place what they think is a blank card. Really, it's a card that nobody's ever going to see. Now here, I'm going to do a double lift with these two cards that now have the break, and I'm going to side jog them here to the right. Just like this. Now, what you're going to carry off right now is what's called a Manhattan change. I don't know that. I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought that this was just getting a card into palm from this position. But apparently this has a name and it does exist, and it's called the Manhattan change. Now, I don't know if this is the exact same mechanics of that particular change. This is just something I've been doing for many, many years. And well, if it does, then it's a happy coincidence. I'm going to come in with my right palm and press against the upper right corner of this card. Now I'm going to do this as I come down on the card, and I could then regrip it here in the lower right side. So you can see the action down here as I bring the card down, and that card is in this weird modified palm. It's not necessarily in a palm. Oh, my bad. I guess I forgot what the fucking monitor was. And because of that position of the palm, my hand could be a little bit more open than normal just because we're not having that card in a traditional front forward classic palm. You can see the action from over here exposed, and that's where we carry off the actual color change. So right now, that card is changed into the blank card that they think is over here. Now, of course, here's where the issue lies, because we're going to need to now trade this card for this card. So how do we do that? Well, as we square up this card, remember we have this card palmed, we're going to square it up. We're going to start spreading these cards. Now, as that's taking place, I'm actually taking this opportunity to place that palm card now against the spread. So right now, that card is riding along behind the spread, almost like a spread call. Well, exactly like a spread call. So this technique is taking place right after we execute the color change. That card's in palm. We square up that card, and this card is here underneath. As we spread the deck, we're just placing it squared up with the deck as we spread down to this outjogged card. Now I'm just going to execute a spread call switch. So that's simply done by taking this card, which is a 5 of diamonds, squaring it up with that card directly above it, and then turning over my entire right hand and thumbing off this card, so now it's outjogged. I could then bring the deck to this position, keep that card there, and that transposition is shown off to the participants. So let me see if I can have this from the exposed view. As you can see, there is a lot of annoying sleight of hand for this particular trick, considering that particular color change does have its angle limitations. But what you're rewarded with at the end of the day is a very clean and simple transposition of 2 cards that trade places, one outjogged from the deck and one on the top of the deck. So I think it's a very novel approach to this transposition, and one that you're going to use to show off to the ladies that you don't know what to do with them. That loading technique is a very useful one. It could be used for a lot of things. When you have a card in palm position and you want to place it back in the deck, maybe you want to place it back face up, well, that's an excellent way of doing so without the participants being aware of it. The answer is yes, I do hate myself. Make sure to comment down below what's your favorite shape of a labia. Sometimes people like enlarged labias, sometimes people like thin labias. Personally, I don't like roast beef vaginas. I don't like the ones that kind of stick out past the I guess the clitoral hood. I don't like that. I like it when everything's inside and you get to dive in there. Funny enough, now that I said everything's inside, when I was younger, my ex-girlfriend and I went to the Cheesecake Factory, because that's what you do. You take your shoddy out to the Cheesecake Factory. And of course, this was a Cheesecake Factory that had a patio that was still indoors, right? So imagine the layout here, Cheesecake Factory, and then a little separate area that could be considered a patio, but it was still indoors. And my girlfriend at the time, very intelligent girl, would ask the lady, hey, can we sit outside? And the unenthused hostess told her, ma'am, everything's inside. Which is a very metaphorical, and you could extrapolate that and take that into other walks of life. So it's very, very philosophical of her, rather, to tell that to my, I would say, retarded girlfriend. But it was still, nevertheless, a fun moment.
I see you again, when 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 I see you again.